Flory Models daily vlog. Here we are on Tuesday the 22nd of September 2015 and really been at it. Okay, really pushing on today. Start off with this morning, to be honest, we gave a coat of lacquer to our Red Bull RB6 one we're working on at the moment, and hopefully you can pick it up on camera. Beautiful stuff. Now, we did obviously the blue, no problem at all, went down very nice and glossy. Then we put the yellow on, which we do have to discuss, I suppose. Originally, you know, it's one of those things. Are you just going to do it yellow and all the bits and pieces? We knew we were going to have trouble matching the decal colour, which is the true RB6 yellow, Red Bull yellow, with obviously that other colour. Now, you can go on to Highroboy, spend £10, buy the bottle, and away you go. But 10 quid just to do that, and this bit did seem a little bit excessive. So, what I actually elected to do is make up my own one. Now, I'm a great believer in doing the old palette way, as I call it. What I tend to do is get a little bit of styrene sheet and I start off with what we're going to use. So in our case, we simply did flat yellow, XF3 Tamiya, and then we came in with some clear orange, X26, because that was what I was thinking it was going to be anyway. So we basically started off with 50-50 mix, okay? Far too orangey, not very nice at all. And then all we do is add a drop at a time, because you don't want to come along and start popping them in. Have I got one around here somewhere? No, somewhere else. Colour cups, and doing them that way. Because if you're going to put them in your colour cup, or you go into a little mixing jar, just down here, something else like this, because what you're going to end up with is like, you know, basically 5-6 mil of this stuff when you don't need that amount, okay? So by doing it down here, you can work your formulation out. So you might be able to see we've got a few bits and pieces on the go here, different things. Don't take too much notice because you do get a little bit of separation with the orange and the yellow, so the orange always comes to the surface. But what we actually did, start off with 50-50, far too orange. Okay, so then we go another drop of yellow. Okay, then another, and another. Anyway, we got down to the point where we worked out that it's basically an 8-to-1 ratio. So it's 8 parts yellow to 1 part of the actual orange, gives us what I think is pretty much the right colour. Then you have to think, okay, it doesn't look too bad here, but when you spray it, it will be lighter by its nature. But then you've got the thing when you're airbrushing onto this, and don't forget this was blue, so when we were building up the layers, we knew with each layer we could come up a layer and come up, and it will get darker with each one. So it started off with quite light, and then we moved up and we get darker until we get the correct one. So it's like a two-stage thing. You're halfway there with the colour, you know you're in the ballpark because it looks almost identical, and that's just by holding the decal sheet, which is over here, up to what we've got just down here. And by sort of, you know, layering them out, going, yeah, I know, we're not too far out, we're in the ball game, then you know you can do it, because obviously the thicker you go, the darker it's going to go. And actually, as we were putting this one down, so I think, you know, it was only a 5-minute job. I explain it in full. It's probably going to be in maybe part 3 of this particular one next week. We'll talk all about doing the colour and everything else. Once that was down, we gave this a gloss coat right the way over, and to be honest, that's drying now, and then I can get the decals on. Once the decals on, we're going to seal them down, the same as we did Ducati, with some lacquer, make them perfect. Let it go hard for a couple of days, and then that way we're actually in a good position then just to bring it all together, put it together, and then basically it's near job done. So it's coming along, being very, very nice, and we're explaining everything. So we talk about glossing, you know, the actual lacquer coat going down, obviously all about that. We also used, for the first time in anger, instead of just playing with it, was the old Tamiya's curvy tape. This is the 2mm one, I do believe, or 3mm one. As I say, it works great, don't get me wrong, it's fantastic stuff, but 3mm. There is other options out there, and they're a lot cheaper. Just have a look at pinstriping for cars, because that is all it is, honestly. And there is a drawback to it. The Achilles heel is the normal masking tape. So if you can imagine with this one, we came along, masked it down the sides and all the rest of it. Then I came along with masking tape. The masking tape won't stick to this because it's a vinyl tape. That's why it's bendable. But don't get me wrong, it works, because this is actually quite a, I don't know what the camera picks up. I've got the overhead cam on this today, but you can actually see it's a curve all the way around there, and it showed them, you know, very complex. It's a big double curve, so it's not like just one going round or one going away from you. It's actually scooping in and around, and it worked an absolute dream. So, you know, no problems with it. It does do the job. It's just very expensive, and you can't mask over it. But if you do want to do the cheap option, I think you can buy huge, big rolls of this stuff in various thicknesses, but just look under pinstriping because it is the same stuff. All right, so there we go. So the RB6, as I said, looking really, really nice. We can get going with that. But because it is all drying, before we could get in with decking, which I'll probably do first thing in the morning. But we thought we might as well start on our next build. So this is the F104. Obviously it's the Hasegawa kit. It's just been reboxed obviously by Edard. They put their Bresin bits in and we're working our way through that. So literally I've only been doing this for the last half an hour. So we've done a lot of the bits. We've got the main gear together. We got the engine in together. We've used the old PVA glue trick to get rid of the ejector pins that are inside this. If you haven't seen it before, literally PVA glue, dab of it in there, let it self level and do all its bit, and you should be absolutely fine. So that is in there drying off now. We've worked in the cockpit, so we've removed the surface detail, we've put a couple of the little resin bits in, things like that, so that is all ready. And then with the actual fuselage, we know we've got to open up the holes. One little thing, it says they're 2mm holes, they're not, they're lying, they're actually 1.75. If you go in 2mm, they're too big. So we did 2mm in here, it's too big, so I'm going to have to fill it. So we're using some styrene filler, drop of that in there, and then obviously what we're going to do is re-drill it and dress it and make it all nice for when the actual lights go in, the nav lights. It is going to be in a full metal finish. We are going to be using the AKs. I explained all about it at the beginning of the build, exactly my task, what we're going to do with it, and then hopefully sealing it down with having no problems, decaling on it. But obviously from our point of view, we can use the AK Extreme Metals in anger, so we can talk about obviously masking. Does it mask? Is it going to be good? And then we can go around things. What's it look like when it's decaled? How does it overcoat and everything else like that? So it is going to be a very in-depth look at obviously AK's Extreme Metals, as well as obviously a full video build as we make our way through and everything else like that. So generally we are going along very, very nicely. So we had a load of deliveries in today, if I'm honest. A couple of your guys that have ordered kits, they're all in. They'll be going out with you tomorrow. From my point of view, I ordered, because they were on offer, we spoke about creative. So I bought a bike case for the bike. And what I love about it is it's got clips underneath. So you can pick it up by the case without the bottom falling off, as you can't with the others. Because you pick the others up, the lid comes off. These actually lock, so you can put the bike in there just like that. And I must admit, I absolutely love it. It keeps it dust free. And it's just nice being black and clear, if I'm honest, because it works very well with the red from the bike. It shows it up, but very happy with those cases. If you didn't know, they are literally less than a tenner, and they are that good at the moment with creative. I went out and I must admit I bought 6. They're stackable, so you can interlock them and everything else. We've spoken about them before, but they're all down here. So we've got 6 of them to go along with the ones I've already got up there. I've already got 3. So yeah, plenty to go on with them. We've got some other bits and pieces came in. What do we got? We've got, been after one of these for a while, but couldn't find one anywhere. But they're back in, so that's the Mobius Battlestar Galactica. Okay, we've also got the Tacom. This is the Tadpole. Okay, so this is the Mark IV with the workable tracks and all the rest of it. So we'll be looking at that in the very, very near future. We're talking about AK paints and things like that. So this is the World War II Japanese colour ones in there. Now, not to be mistaken, obviously we've been using the Vallejo ones recently, separate company and all the rest of it, but I don't have any technical Japanese colours and things like that. So I thought we could actually give these a bit of an on test, because to be honest, we had a few problems with AK paints recently, but those are around, so we got some of those. Get asked a lot about it, so we're going to see what all the fuss is about again, because I was on a roll buying some AK stuff. So down here we've got the landing gear for the Air Series. These are enamel washes. Okay, so this is one for landing gear, obviously internal details, things like that. And we got another one for engine weathering effects. So I thought I might give these a whirl on an upcoming build. If not, we'll even use it on this one. Lots of people have asked about these. So they are as horrible as they seem. I don't doubt it for a minute, but I thought it might be a giggle, if we even get this one up right way, just to have a look and actually put them together at some point. Let's face it, these are for the kids. It's not really for a modeller's point of view. But from what I like to do, sometimes you could start it off like it, i.e. use it for a basis and then detail it yourself. Now, we're not saying this is anything like the Bandai kits we've been doing recently. It's definitely nowhere near the fine mold kits, but I just thought it might be a bit of fun. They got lights and sounds. No. It was playing earlier when I did that. I'm not going to do it now, but there we go. So you know, something just a little bit different, but if you want to get the kids involved, I thought we might have a look at some of these new snap tight kits just to get them into the hobby. And then obviously we've got other bits and pieces here which will be going out to you guys obviously tomorrow. So we've also got, being Tuesday, is the question time. Now last week we sort of run out of time or you didn't get your questions in on time from the actual live show. The live show is going to have a break for a couple of weeks, and we're going to bring it back in some format a little bit later on. But to be honest, I'm burnt out doing it. The guys are burnt out doing it. We had a few problems with the sound and the various things, so we decided to have a little bit of a break. So this is some of the questions we missed off from that, and some of the questions you've sent me direct. So the first one is from Dave. He says, "Hi guys, Phil. When are you going to show us your flight sim hobby? And I've seen that it's the 75th anniversary for the Battle of Britain. Just a quick thank to all those involved, lest we forget." Absolutely. My flight sim thing, to be honest, I haven't got it set up at the moment. Upstairs office is where it used to be, had a makeover and it all got shifted out. I do love my flight sim, you know, I'm into DCS. What I will probably do is when DCS 2 comes out, which is going to be amazing, which if you believe all the hype will be next week, then what I'll probably do is set it all up again. And as soon as it's all set up again, I'll show you exactly what I got. Basically, I like to fly online and things like that, and I'll tell you where you can find me online and various bits and pieces. Right, okay, John, he says, "Hi Phil, please discuss in greater detail airbrush painting, cleanup using enamels and lacquers. When you apply wet coats of paint, do you dry out the paint using air from your airbrush, or leave it to level out and dry until protect it from dust? When you clean your airbrush, do you use," I think it should be use, "anything other than the appropriate thinner for your airbrush, for the paint, and any normal airbrush cleaner? I would love to see a demo of you applying paint coats, that smooth, shiny finish like you did on Ducati." Well, obviously, I'm going to do a full thing on lacquering. It's all going to be about clear coats. That's all it's going to do. I'm going to do a special on clear coats. So we're going to talk about now flat, satin, gloss, and then we're going to call it high gloss, okay, because there is two different versions of gloss. You've got the one which I call the scale effect gloss, which is something we've done like on the Ducati down here. Then there is even a higher gloss, I would call it, which tends to be very it's been spoken about that one as well. Some people saying that it's almost got the die-cast look because you lose that sort of scale because you go too far about it. We're going to speak about it at length in a couple of weeks when I've got it all sorted. I intend to get some bits and pieces down here. Buster might even go glossy yet, you never know. But generally, when you're putting down a wet coat like I do with these, I did it this morning, to be honest, or last night with this one, and we went right the way over it, and I show it in depth, and hopefully the cameras have got it. I haven't edited it yet, but basically I start past it, so all the overspray goes down here, and then you hit it and it's wet, and then you go wet and you overlap. It's a bit like mowing the lawn when it's slightly wet. You sort of go over yourself a bit, okay? You do exactly the same thing. So all the overspray goes past it and then just melts into itself as it goes through. What you don't want to do is put any air on it whatsoever. So don't then cut to air and dry it down, because you're gonna actually speed up the drying surface of the skin artificially. That said, if you've got a hairdryer, and I know you all giggle at my girly hairdryer, but it does work, you've got a couple of settings. So you've got your standard, which is quite hot and all the rest of it, but it's also got a slower one. Now this is really hot. In fact, you can't even keep your hand in it too long because it really gets hot. Okay, so it's got a very slow hot setting. Because it is hot air, and it's to a certain temperature, it's actually probably melting the surface of the paint and then but hardening it at an overall level. Instead of just blowing on the surface, everything's warming up, which means the paint is drying evenly. So sometimes if I'm into the impression where perhaps we may be getting a run or it may be looking wet, I'll hit it with the hairdryer on a very hot setting on a slow speed, so it heats up the paint and then obviously shrinks it in and it gets a bite, okay? Then I will take it away, to be honest, again, my lovely little thing. So your two options are, with this one, it had a hairdryer, okay? Just literally, I don't know, not even 30 seconds, just over it, very high heat. Then we come along, we cover it up. That stops all the dusty bits settling down on it, okay? This guy over here, to be honest, I could even hold it back here as I actually sprayed it like this. No problem at all. Okay, I came off of it, we looked at it, it looked very nice and all the rest of it, so it was great. So literally I put it down. This one was done first, if I remember rightly. You had them both like this. We come along, we put this over it, it sat over there, and then we got on with other things, and then come back after about an hour. You can come along, you don't want to touch it with your hands, but you can certainly feel it, and it's absolutely fine. If you do find you're getting particles in the surface of your paint or your bits and pieces, don't be frightened of it. We've done it to this one, sand it down. So you don't have to come in with, you know, something too amazingly polishes, but you can certainly use, we've used this guy. If you look at the end, you can see it's very blue on both the ends here. You can even see it up here, but these are the ones we've done it wet. Remember, you can use all our sponges wet, they won't fall apart on you. You just wet it and gently, don't push, just let the surface, so the high points get taken out. That'll take care of all of those. Then when you come in with your lacquer, it will cover it all, okay, and you'll be absolutely fine. So that is the thing, gently work them up. But as I say, have a watch of these. You know, you're in the forum, you remember, you'll see them. When these come up, have a look and you'll see it. And then as I say, a couple of weeks, I'm going to do one about greater detail, about actually clear coating and lacquers, okay, and that's what it's all going to be about. As for what I actually use for cleaning up, to be honest, I just used the thinner that I thinned it with, okay. So like for instance, this one is clean, which is amazing. Caught up today. Ooh. This guy down here, literally the normal thinners, which I actually did it with, I was using self-leveling thinners on this, which I think absolutely works a treat with it. So we just use self-leveling thinners right the way through, no problem at all. Blow it through, cleaned it out. We speak about it a lot, about cleaning out the airbrush, which is something else you're going to see, quite relevant really, because if you get any particles left in this when you do the clear coat, you'll have a nightmare. So because we've clear coated the yellow, we didn't want a bit of blue suddenly coming through, or other colours I've been using recently, to suddenly come out and actually spit all over it. And I speak about having a dedicated airbrush for lacquers and for clear coating. So all it does is have clears through it. It's probably a wise idea, because I have had it happen to the Ducati, tiny bit of something, black, dark, flicked out and put a spot right on the panel, which funny enough is the one that's not attached to the bike. So there we go. So yes, after that, to be honest, I'm a great believer in keeping your airbrush sort of lubed up and everything else like that. If you have had lacquers through it or enamels, tiny bit of super lube on the needle, that just makes all the seals nice, and everything when that gets pushed through is normally good enough. Or come along with an acrylic airbrush cleaner, which is out of reach. My Vallejo one is my standard one. That has got a sort of a lubricant in there as well. Just keeps everything moving, stops everything seizing up, and all the bits and pieces like that. But just generally clean it until nothing comes out. So when you're blowing out your airbrush, we speak about it in these builds, you shouldn't have anything at the end. So the bit where you run out of paint and you get that bit at the back at the end, you don't want that. If you've got bits coming through, it means it's in the nozzle and you want that out. So then keep flushing through until that stops. So there we go. But as I say, there will be a full demo on that in literally 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I'll have it all sorted out. Hi chaps, sorry, this is Stuart. It says, hi chaps, I'd like to say that I'm quite a new member to your website, really enjoying it. I'm after a new airbrush at the moment and saw your review on the Harder & Steenbeck Ultra. Would you recommend this for an everyday airbrush, or would you recommend saving up for an Infinity? Can you get the same results from both airbrushes? Absolutely. You know, don't be fooled into the thing about, obviously it's a cheaper airbrush against something massive. Now the thing is, if there's up the Ultra, that's the Ultra, there's an Infinity. Okay, oh Christ, crash. So what you've actually got, just stick that in there. Really, the business end of every airbrush is what is happening at the nozzle, the needle, okay, and somewhat to do with your trigger assembly. But day to day, it's really all about your nozzle and your needle. They're the ones which, if they're done correctly and they're working and they're clean and they're, you know, newish, okay, and all the rest of it, you'll have no problem. All the bits down the back here, i.e. all this nice coloured bit, is all the gimmicky bits. They're the bits that you could use. I don't, but you could. I have no doubt about it that I could do exactly the same as what I've done to the Ducati and all these builds and everything else with this airbrush, because at the end of the day it's got the same nozzle and needle set as what is in the Infinity. The difference with the Infinity at the end of the day is purely off the bat, it's got a new or a different nozzle cap. It's a pinch clean one rather than the bezel, you know, the gun barrel type one that you've got down here. Okay, it's a cleaner, easier look. It doesn't get gummed up as much. Okay. The trigger itself is a little bit more, what's the word I'm after? It's This one, when you pull the trigger, the spring, you can feel it. You've got the resistance of the spring. When you do these ones, it doesn't feel like you can feel a spring in there, if you know what I mean. It's just a little bit more smoother. Now, would that affect your painting? I don't think so. Not in a million years. I think you could do it. This airbrush, the only thing that is its downside is obviously it's colour cut, so you need the slightly bigger one, and I don't like the way it has this sort of push fit in job. I prefer the screw on ones and all the rest of it. If you were on a budget and you're looking for an airbrush, then this is the one to go for. It's exactly the same on the business end. This front portion of the airbrush, which is all that matters, the air stem and all the bits and pieces, is exactly the same. This airbrush is around about, what, £60? This is £160 for the gimmicky bits on the back end. Is it worth it? It's up to you. You know, I'm a great believer in buy right, buy the first time, but this is a double action airbrush with all the bits and pieces, okay? This one here has got a few very nice touches. You can lock the needle back out of the way, you can set it, you can do all that. You've got a little thing here and you can adjust the tension on the actual trigger. So with it all the way forward as it is at the moment, it's actually quite strong. If you loosen this right off, all it does is lengthening the spring inside, taking the resistance out. It makes it a lot softer, okay? So really that's the only difference. Would I recommend an Infinity? Yes, I would. It's a lovely airbrush, don't get me wrong, but I would recommend over it. If you want to go somewhere in between, I would recommend going for something like this guy. Go for an Evo CR Plus, okay? That way you'll get the pinch clean nib on the end, which you really need. Works out around about 30 quid, okay? You've got the option for upgrading for different size colour cups, as we know, because obviously you can have a small one and a big one, and all things like that. And your trigger set and things like that will just be a little bit more refined, shall we say, and not quite as organic. You know, this one's quite manual. You can feel the spring. With the Evo and the Infinity, you don't really feel the spring. It's very smooth and everything else like that. So if I was recommending an airbrush, which is funny because I've recommended this airbrush now for over 10 years, just go for the CR Plus version. It's got the nice Teflon bits and pieces and everything else in there. Set you back 90 quid, I think they are, about that much. But yeah, just make sure you go for the CR Plus one because you've got all the bits and pieces for it. Okay, so what else have we got? To be honest, that's a one for Steve, and as I know not a lot about that, I won't try and do it. Okay. Okay, so Tim, he actually asked, "Hi fellas, could you talk about how to stop from getting aches and pains in modelling, i.e. posture, seats and such? Also, I'm 37 and do Gundam. With a lot of sanding, really small parts, I'm finding muscles at the base of my thumb really ache after an hour of sanding and prepping. Do you have any tips?" Funnily enough, again, it's something I can speak about. As a lot of you know, I had a lot of back problems and things like that in the past, to the point of having operations and things like that. It is a big thing. Get yourself a decent chair. My last two chairs were really, really good. My chairs before that were terrible and probably why I ended up in hospital. And having operations. I've had 2 operations on my back. I suffer terrible sciatica to this day, which is absolutely debilitating and crippling. For all my sciatica friends out there, you know what I'm on about. I don't get it as much as I used to. Posture is everything. I've got very good lumbar support in my spine back here, and when I'm not leaning over, because of you guys showing you, I do tend to sit. I'll try and sit back and do this. Also, the thing is, have regular breaks, walk around and things like that. For your hand, to be honest, I don't really know. I don't get it. I don't have problems with my hands and thumbs and that yet. I'm blessed. I know some of you do. We've spoken about airbrushing as well, using the trigger one versus the other one, because people find it difficult after a while just airbrushing. I've been airbrushing so many years now. I think I've got the old memory thing in the hand. I could probably hold an airbrush better than I can a pen. Well, I know I can if anyone see my writing. And all the rest of it. So yeah, I can't really talk about that, but I would recommend a good seat. These chairs, to be honest, they are, I don't know, about 100 quid a pop, and I think they're well worth it. You know, they're absolutely fine. It's nice, it's sturdy. Before that, I had some cheap ones, just little, type cheap office chairs, things like that, 30 quid I think they were. And you do tend to stoop and lean, and you're going to get problems and stuff like that. It is something. You spend a long time, guys, sit here at your bench, invest in some good gear. You know, I always say the 2 important things is lighting, because if you're squinting, you're going to get headaches and stuff like that. Good light source. I don't get headaches or anything else like that. and then obviously a good chair, because you're sat on it for so many hours doing all your little fiddly jobs, you know, and things like that. But you know, generally just take your time, have regular breaks, have a walk around, speak to the rest of the family. Okay, is it going ahead tonight? Yes. Where's the live show? Yes, yes, yes. Look at all those. Okay, no live show. Okay. Right, okay, so Trevor Williams, he says, "Hi Phil, just one question. Do you think it's worth making up homebrew styrene filler using sprue from the models that you're actually going to use it on? They will have the same consistency and hardness as the plastic. I'm also thinking of older models with known fit issues, so you know that you're going to need doing it, and it's going to need a bit of filling. I ask as I found that filler made from styrene sheet when I've used in my models is harder styrene, like some of the old Revel models. It is very easy to oversand sometimes, or roll the filler out of gaps. If you're rolling the filler, it hasn't dried. It's as simple as that. You know, it's a bit like we were talking about when we do the polyurethane stuff. It's because it hasn't totally cured. So if you're finding you're getting rolling and it's not purely dust, it literally hasn't dried enough yet. Good point though, because I'm using, let's say I overcooked the nav light here. It says 2 mil in the instructions. It's not, it's 1.75. So I took the bezel around of it out. So what I'm going to do is fill it, sand it and re-drill it with a smaller hole so it looks a little bit more like that one, to the correct size, and fix the little error that I've made on that one. To be honest, this plastic is very hard. It's the typical, you know, shiny stuff, Hasegawa, very crisp stuff like that. It works very, very well with this particular type. The Airfix one was a softer one. I found that you could see the difference between the two, but I think you're in the ballpark, you know, you're in that area where it's working, it is doing it. It's not as hard as obviously using a super glue, and it's not as soft as a filler. Where this stuff comes into its own is when you're rescribing. So if you've got a big join, to be honest, question is the actual, like with the lightning that we did, sorry, Typhoon, huge wing joins that needed rescribing afterwards. By using that, I had none of that dropping in, you know, that thing where the filler's softer than the plastic and you end up putting a trench in. None of that whatsoever, because the entire thing was filled start to finish with that stuff. Just make it a little bit thicker, perhaps, and that would do it. But do you think it's worth it? If you were going to be spending a couple of months building it, then yeah, knock yourself up a little bottle if you wanted to with the sprue you've used, with the actual whichever solvent you're going to be putting into it. I like to use extra thin, as you know, and do it that way. If you're using it more generally, like I am, each week we seem to be doing something different, then obviously I just make up a batch and do it just like that. One of those things. Let me know how you get on, because I've never tried it with the styrene from the kit. Okay, so what else have we got? Okay, Paul Selwood. Hi Phil, Sid and Steve. A question for Phil. Can you start a topic? Don't know where you put it, mind. The scans of paint callouts and same scale as the kit. This is how it works. Take a scan of the paint callouts in the instruction, enlarge them. Oh, I know what you're getting at. You mean the actual, if it's like a camo pattern, so you could then print them off, I'm guessing. So you could, because the photo bucket is limited to 124 pixels along the edge and views of the forum. A direct link to photo bucket pics might be the same way. Yeah, we spoke about this before. The trouble is to actually do each one up there would be a bit of a nightmare, just because the general hundreds of kits and stuff out there, and I do know there's other sites that do it rather than ours. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know there's one forum out there that does this type of thing, so might be worth having a look at those. But I do know what you mean about printing them off so you can do them and stuff like that. Somebody asked me the other day about where they can see the instructions for some of the kits. If you look at my reviews, you can pause them and print them off, because we're in such a high res now, because I always show you the instructions page by page. That's how I would do it. So you can literally just go through, pause it, print it off, the screenshot, and you've got your instructions just like that. Because every review we do, we show every single page of the instructions, colour callouts, the bits and pieces like that. So you could do it that way. Okay. Right, okie dokie, that is about it, I think, for that one. There's some bits in there, to be honest, which I'm going to cover in another one, which I'm going to show you with the bits and pieces laid out. So there we go, that's about it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, if you've got any questions for me, just send them via the contact me page, actually, or contact us, I should say, on the site, main site. Just put in the actual subject, just put Tuesday's questions, and we'll find you one way or other, and we can answer them as we make our way round. So there we go, that's it for Tuesday. On with the actual Starfighter, making great progress on that. Get the Declan done on the RB6 tomorrow, and we should have some good progress for you. So there we go, that's it for me today, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.